Yo, it's the Co.
And yo, it's the Cone. And today we have our Premier League table predictions. We did one in, I believe, May. And now, here comes August. Premier League season is starting in a few days. So we're gonna give our final predictions before the season starts. Gonna go first with our relegation teams, and then we're gonna go the next four, and then the next four, and then the two teams just missing out on Europe, then the three teams one in the Conference League, two in the Europa League, and finally end with the four teams that we think will make Champions League spots this season. Marco, would you like to start us off with your three teams that you think are going to be relegated?
Yep. The two teams at the bottom, like 19 and 20, did not change. I still think Sheffield United and Nottingham Forest are going to get relegated. And the team that I put down to get relegated is Crystal Palace. I don't think they did enough this transfer window to stay up. I think the team that just got over them did a lot more in this transfer window to stay into the Premier League.
My three teams that I think are going to get relegated, it's a bit different, just a bit. In 20th, I have Everton. I kind of thought that they were going to maybe do something that would really help them in the transfer window, and I haven't seen it. They've looked pretty helpless the last couple of years, but now I think it's going to be their time to go down. In 19th, I have Luton Town. Barely made it. I don't think they're going to get last. I think they're going to compete in some games, but realistically, I don't think it's their season. And in 18th, I have Bournemouth. Again, just not a great squad. Haven't done enough in the transfer window, and I think it's their time to go down.
See, with my 17, I have Bournemouth. I think they did a lot this transfer window. Then they brought in some key players that can make them survive another year in the Prem. The two teams that I have above is Wolves and Everton. I think they brought in a couple players, but I still think they survive another year too. And in 14th, I have Luton Town. I think they take a toll down of my prediction of what I had them before. And that's the four teams that I have surviving.
Yeah, my four, a bit of the same, a bit different. In 17th, I have West Ham. I know that they just won the Conference League. However, their best player, their captain, is gone. And the replacement that they get, whether it's someone like Tyler Adams, whether it's someone like Scott McTominay, they're not the same player. They're not going to be able to replace how important Declan Rice was to their squad. However, they still barely managed to scrape it out and stay in the Premier League. In 16th, I also have Wolves. That's our first one that we have joint, the same team. Just fine. Lost Ruben Neves. But
Big player.
Big player. Very important player for them. But they are still going to survive. In 15th, I have Sheffield. I had them getting relegated originally, but I've thought about it a bit more, and I do think that they're a pretty strong squad and are going to be good enough to stay in the Premier League for a few years. In 14th, I have Nottingham Forest. I think they're going to do the same thing that they've been doing since they've came back up, and that's somehow managed to survive. They're going to lose some embarrassing games. They're going to beat some good teams, contend with some really, really good teams, and barely scrape it out and get 14th.
My next four teams, in 13th, I have Fulham. I know they just signed Raul Jimenez a couple days ago. I feel like he's going to be a big part of their team this year with Mitrovic out. At 12, I have Burnley. They've been very, very active in the transfer window. They've signed some key players from big teams. And I know they just signed the U21 goalkeeper from England, who was on City. He was excellent in the World Cup, or in the Euros, I mean. In 11th, I have West Ham. West Ham are starting to be more active in the transfer window in the coming days before the season starts. And then at 10, I just have Spurs. I know they just won a trophy. It doesn't really matter. But I think Spurs is that middle ground team that's going to be okay this year.
What was it, the Singapore Tiger Cup or something? It was good for them. I'm happy that they got a trophy. For me, my mid-table, I have Fulham at 13th as well. Signed Jimenez, losing Mitrovic. I do think it's a bit of a downgrade. I think the money that they're going to get for Mitrovic versus the money that they paid for Jimenez is actually pretty good business, because I don't think the drop-off is that significant. And so to get 30 million euros or pounds or whatever it was is a great deal for them. In 12th, I have Brentford. Without Ivan Toney for the first at least half of the season, I think the goals are going to be a bit of a struggle. They do have a pretty good team, so I see a lot of draws in the first half of the season for them. Maybe losing some games that they should be winning, but because they don't have that really strong goal scorer in Ivan Toney, I bet they're going to be in the mid-table. In 11th, I have Crystal Palace. Just a mid-table team. They're gonna draw to City, to United, to Liverpool. They're gonna beat Liverpool, Arsenal, whoever. Like they're gonna win some of those games, but then they're gonna lose to Bournemouth. They're gonna lose to Luton Town. They're gonna get demolished by like a Wolves. But that's just what a mid-table team does, and I think that's them. And in 10th, I have Burnley. Like you said, doing well in the transfer market. Already have a really nice team that demolished the championship last year. And now they're going to be a mid-table team for a year or two, and they're going to be in Europe soon. If they get 6th or 7th place this year, I don't think that many people will be surprised. Mm-hmm. But I do have them, for this season, I have them in 10th.
For the two teams that I have missing out on European competition, I did switch them around. I have Brentford at 9. I feel like they've been very active as well. But I have Brighton at 8. I think they made some key moves in the transfer window. With McAllister out, they brought in some key players to fill in. I know Caicedo is not quite leaving yet. I feel like he's going to be a big player to step up in that lineup. And those are the two teams that I have missing out on European football.
Yeah, for me, in 9th place, I have Tottenham. Pretty similar to you. Just, I don't think Kane is going to be there when the season starts. And the rest of their team is okay. Yeah, I don't think it's strong enough to make a European spot. And yeah, have him at 9th. In 8th, I have Chelsea, missing out on Europe. It's just, it's a big group of individuals. They sold a lot of people on their team, and even though they were people that didn't fully contribute last season, they are people that played a lot for them. So to just replace, it's going to be tough for that team to mesh. So I think early on they're going to struggle a lot, and by the end of this season, maybe they're starting to click and win some games, but I don't think it'll be enough.
The next teams, which are Conference League, which is 7th, and then 5th and 6th are Europa League. With my 7th place, I have Chelsea. I feel like they're gonna make it into the Conference League. Maybe win it the prior year, but I don't see that team as strong as they were in previous years, which are Champions League winners. And the two teams in Europa League football, I have Aston Villa and I have Liverpool. I think those two teams, I think Villa have been very active, but Liverpool have not, and they've lost a lot of key players, and they're going to keep their old players.
In my 7th spot, I have Aston Villa. Made some good signings. They are a pretty solid team. Made the Conference League this past season, and I think they're going to do it again. They're a very strong team, and I see Europe in their future for the next few years. In 6th place, I have Newcastle. I think they're gonna underperform a little bit. They made the Champions League this season, looked pretty good, losing St. Maximin. I think some of their main pieces are gonna regress a little bit, like a Callum Wilson. And I just don't think they're strong enough to go back to back in the Champions League, being in all of those competitions. In 5th place, I have Arsenal. I don't like Arsenal. I want that to, that's not my main reason. I think some of those players had great seasons last year, and it's not going to be the same this year. I just don't think they're strong enough. I don't think their signings are going to do as much as people think they're going to, like a Declan Rice, like a Kai Havertz. I think losing a player like Granit Xhaka is really detrimental to their team this season. And I also think not having a true 9, having a true striker is gonna pay out for them. You know, Gabriel Jesus is a great player, but I don't consider him to be a true forward, a true center forward in the league. 5th place for me.
Well, he did have his little time at City, and he didn't perform as well as he did, as Haaland did.
Yeah.
So with my 4, 3, 2, and the champion, I have Arsenal. I think Declan Rice is going to perform very well. I think Timber is going to be okay. And the team is built to be a Champions League football team. With my 3rd spot, I have Newcastle. I love the way Newcastle have been doing their football. They've signed a very young, talented Italian player in Tonali, which he's going to be amazing this year. For my 2nd spot, I have Man United. I think it helps them to have a new goalkeeper there with Onana. I know I put him in the overrated, but he has proven himself this year that he is a world-class goalkeeper. And then on my number 1 spot with, I think it's 5 times in a row. Would it be 5 times or 4?
So I think it'd be 3 in a row and 5 of the last 6, or maybe 6 of the last 7.
Whatever. I think City are gonna win again. I think they're gonna be champions of England once again. With the signings they have done, with the team they have got, I think they're gonna be the champions in my opinion.
Yeah, it's tough to go against it. In my 4, I have Brighton. I think that team is so good. Like, they have so many people that are under the radar, and it's such a complete team. They're young, they're gonna keep learning, keep getting better, and I think that the sky is the limit for them. So having them in my 4 spot, very confident in them this year. In my 3, I have Liverpool. I think the last couple months of the season showed that that first 2-3 months were a fluke, weren't something that was sustainable. I think Darwin Nunez is gonna do pretty well in changing the tides from last season to this season. I thought he started to do that towards the end, but now he's got the full season to prove it and to do it. My 2nd team, I have Manchester City. And you know what? I just like change. I think, obviously, they're the favorites. They're gonna be great. There's a good chance they're gonna win, but maybe things will start to change, and that's why in my 1 spot I have Manchester United. But not just because of the bias of being a fan. I think the signings that they have made or are going to make fill every single need. They needed a forward. They're probably going to get Rasmus Højlund. They needed a goalkeeper badly with De Gea leaving. they get an upgrade. They get Andre Onana, one of the best goalies in the world, should be a top 3-4 goalie in the Premier League. They get someone like a Mason Mount who is really creative in the middle, is going to work hard, press resistant. It's exactly what they wanted. Seems like they're going to get Amrabat as well, who, again, just fits the mold of a player that they need. Kobe Mainu is coming up. He's going to be great for them. I think it's a very complete team, and they have some depth, and it's gonna help them perform in all of the competitions that they're in this year.
I think it's going to be a three-legged race with my top three. I think Newcastle bottle it at the end for second place. I think the last couple match days, it's going to be a close one for both Manchester teams. They've done excellent signings in the past couple years. New changes, and the goalkeeper for United and the striker position for City, which those two teams are going to be 1 and 2 for the next coming years. I don't see anyone stopping those two teams unless Mbappe somehow comes to Chelsea or Arsenal or Newcastle with all the money they have.
Yeah, it's definitely going to come down to the last few weeks. It's not going to be like this past season where City have it won with 4 games left, essentially. So the last few weeks get a bit boring. I think this year it's going to be competitive and fun until the last week or two. Well, here's our teams. Here's my team. Here's Marco's teams. What do you think? Do you agree? Disagree? A team that you think is going to do much better than we have them, a team that you think is going to do much worse than we have them. I'm sure some people are going to say, well, Liverpool are going to be 7th, 8th. I'm sure some people are going to think that even like a Burnley are going to do much better than we thought, and Arsenal are going to contend for the league even though we don't have them in that top couple.
Or Luton can win the whole thing. We never know.
City could get relegated for all we know. No one knows. I think that's all.
Yep.
You got anything else to add?
Nope.
No. Well, guys, until next time, see you later.